Welcome to The Chemical Show, the podcast where chemical means business. I'm your host, Victoria Meyer, bringing you stories and insights from leaders driving innovation and growth across the chemical industry. Each week, we explore key trends, real-world challenges, and the strategies that make an impact. Let's get started. Hi, guys. This interview was recorded at the Chemical Summit last week, live with Jimmy Jett. Jimmy is the CEO of Integrity Biochem, and Jimmy and I talked about what it takes to be a startup in an old school chemical industry. And in fact, it capped the theme of transformation that we talked about that day and actually throughout the Chemical Summit. So you're in for a real treat. Listen in, and there's a lot of laughter, a lot of great conversation, and more. Here we go. We've kind of just been in a whole conversation today about transformation and the changes that the industry is in through economics, trade, geopolitics. We talked about the forces of technology and sustainability and other things and talent. And my conversation today with Jimmy is going to wrap it all together. That's my promise. He's really sad that I promised anything, by the way, but that's okay. I think you're going to love it. I've gotten to know Jimmy and the Integrity Biochem team over the last several years, and what they're doing is really amazing, especially when you think about, and we call this topic startup energy in an old school industry, because it's not easy to be a startup in an industry that's 100 years old, right? It takes some different dynamics. Disruptive enterprising. Awesome. Well, I think IBC and Jimmy and your whole team is that and more. So we're going to move on. You can switch to the next one. There we go. We're gonna get rolling here. So first, maybe let's just talk about who is Integrity Biochem, because people may not know. I like to start my interviews that way.
Integrity Biochem was founded with a unique technology platform that actually came out of the pharmaceutical space. My partner, Doc Landis, over there, one of the founders of the business and one of the first investors with myself, we were consulting, working for private equity, working for some companies that we were helping them, with their commercial plans and technology plans. And we came across this really unique platform in the pharmaceutical space. And when I looked at it, I was like, man, this is interesting because it could scale, the price point was right, and we felt like it was a fit in the energy space. And so I called Doc Landis, who had worked at Halliburton and is smartest guy I know, and I said, man, look at this and tell me what you think. And he's like, man, I feel like we're in the garage at Apple. Like, this is the real deal. It's the price point's right. I can sell this in the oil and gas space. Let's do this. And so it was a trust fall. We just invested, went all in, and then quickly 2 years later told the pharmaceutical company that was going out of business, we would make $1, they'd spend 10 on white rooms and trials. And I'm no CFO, but in those board meetings, I knew we were headed for a train wreck. So I politely offered to raise money for them and buy the technology. We pitched it to two companies. They both said, man, we're all in. And then we met with a kind of a private wealth guy that we really liked and just kind of jihad with. And we put an investment group together and bought the technology and moved it to the DFW area and started Integrity Biochem in 2017.
That's cool. So what made you believe that there was this space for a startup like Integrity Biochem in such a traditional industry, right? You guys started in oil field, you've shifted into chemicals, selling into personal care and other spaces. Mm-hmm. How did you know? What made you believe there was room?
It started with the technology, right? So Doc and I spent a lot of late nights talking about, what it would look like to get back in the chemical game. And we didn't want to be pots and pans. The blending business was very crowded. We wanted to get into something that would add value. And when we came across this technology platform, we just knew that this was it. And so we left a very comfortable work-life balance consulting gig and decided to go all in and not sleep for 5 years. So It's been it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and it ties into, when people said the question we asked about what do you think of when you think of startup, it's pace and mindset and fast-paced. How does that mindset, the mindset and the pace of a startup differ from old school companies is kind of our frame to a startup? How do you see this? What is your pace?
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because there's a lot of ways to start a business. We did it with our own money and a group of investors, and we've worked out a cash flow since we started. We've grown from a 3-acre campus to a 60-acre campus, and it's been a phenomenal growth story. But the pace is definitely different. I mean, you are every dollar you spend is real, and you don't have the safety net of a big company to kind of back you up, and so your decisions have to be made to the best of your ability. Now, you fail a lot. There's a lot of decisions that weren't perfect, but you have to be able to correct and move quickly, redirect and focus, and kind of redirect your capital in the right way. And we've been very fortunate in that you surround yourself with the right team. It all goes back to people. I think Todd talked about that earlier on a different scale, but I mean, it's people, right? So you take all the good people you've worked with in your career, you pick the best ones, you beg them to join and say, hey, this is a crazy idea, leave your comfortable big companies and let's go take a risk. And we did that successfully, and we put a good team around us and really were able to hit the gas and do well.
What's your culture? How do you define your culture?
Culture is adaptive, and there's a lot of we adapt well, and our culture is all about opportunity. We're very opportunistic, right? And so when we see an opportunity with our business, no matter what market, we assess it quickly, decide if it's a fit, and then we run hard. Sometimes we run right into walls, and we have to go, oh wow, we were totally wrong. We need to redirect and figure this out. But we are very nimble. We adapt quickly, and we can move on a dime.
Yeah. You talked though about this aspect of transformation, and you and I have talked about this, that just this pace of growth and getting the right people and systems in place. Because I imagine, and every startup I've talked to and worked with, you start out kind of wild, the wild, wild west, which is an oil field guy. Mm-hmm. That's comfortable, right? But at some point you have to build systems and processes and start hiring people to work within those systems and processes. Are you there? How are you navigating that?
I think it's a continual process, right? We started in energy. So our business launched, the technology platform went into energy, which our core team is very comfortable in. I mean, we're all frac chemical team, drilling, frac, completions. We feel very comfortable in those circles. As the technology evolved, we recognized it had a huge value in HI&I, personal coating, paint and coating. So we've entered into these new markets, and you do have to bring on experts in those spaces, right? And so, there's a book I read a long time ago called The Speed of Trust. And it was a very powerful, impactful book for me, because it talks about how, you got to hire these people and trust that they know what they're doing. You got to put metrics in place, obviously, to make sure they're tracking. But the reality is, our company, we operate at a high level of speed of trust. And so we set objectives, but we aren't micromanaging. You're hiring people that have no idea what the oil and gas space is like. They're coming in, meshing their background and history with oil and gas guys, we're all crazy. And so you have to trust that they know what they're doing. And so it's been a big speed of trust case study, right? I mean, you hire good people, and you kind of shift from making the decisions as a small group. I mean, Laura was a founder, Doc's a founder. I mean, it used to be 6 of us around a table. We knew every aspect of the business. And then you start transitioning, and you start bringing in these experts, and you got to trust that they know what they're doing. And you shift from making the decision to asking the question, what do you need to be successful? Tell me what you need. You're the expert. How can we help you? What can I do to make sure, any obstacles we need to take out of the way so these new business units can be successful. So it's just kind of a mindset shift.
Yeah. And then, we've talked a little bit today about putting KPIs in place and measurement. Is that a core part of what you guys do? I mean, because again, when you think about trust, there's the whole trust but verify, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, what am I trusting you with?
Yeah.
So is that, do KPIs and metrics play a big role in your business as you grow?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about startup, right? You start with a big chief tablet, and that's your financial plan, right? And then you move into QuickBooks, and then you're in Kimpax. We're on like our 4th ERP system because we keep outgrowing them, because metrics matter, right? And metrics matter differently in each business you're working in. Oil and gas, the metrics that matter are truckloads out the door, right? And you got to know what's the frac count, right? There's easy metrics. It's what we're all comfortable with. You start getting into personal care, HI&I, HI&I, and you start talking about, how many SKUs are you in, or what does your development cycle look like? You go from oil and gas with a 6-month product launch to shipping 12 truckloads out a day, to personal care that, they're talking about, hey, we're speccing you in 2 years. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. You're going to sell 9 buckets. And you're just like, oh, that's cool. Probably should have read the fine print before we jumped into this market. But it's just a different mindset, right? I mean, you're just it's wild. I mean, you jump into the mining industry and it feels like oil and gas, right? It's a giant water treatment plant and there's tons of volume. So, we feel very comfortable on a mine site. You take me into the cosmetic shows in New York and I'm walking around and they're thinking like, they're on safari. Like, who's that? Like, I don't fit the mold at all. I mean, people are like, what is this giant dude doing at our trade show? And but it's just, so the metrics are real and metrics are different for each market. So we've had to really identify what are those success metrics and what do they look like and what do those timelines look like in each market. It's been challenging, very challenging.
Well, and especially I think for the leadership team and you guys, as you say, used to one type of business, to have to evolve and grow to a different type of business with different leadership, relinquishing some of that leadership and control.
Yep. Yeah.
Keeps you up at night sometimes, I'm sure.
It does. It goes back to, you got to trust your teammates, right? I remember being in one of my first, HI&I personal care meetings, and I'm with our director of business, Mike Suver, and we're sitting at the table, and they were like, well, what does your lead times look like? And so I'm like, I got this, Mike. We can deliver full truckloads, rail, 24 hours. You call, 24-hour service. And Mike looks at me, he's like, you've lost your mind. This is HI&I. You tell them 6 weeks, they're going to do a backflip and think you're the greatest company ever. And I'm like, well, why don't we tell them 24 hours? He goes, because, it's a mind shift change. I mean, I didn't know. I'm like, dude, service is service. You want it in 24 hours? We'll deliver it. And it's just, and he literally was like, you just need to not ever talk again in these meetings. And I was like, okay, fair enough. It is what it is.
By the way, I think Mike might have told me that. One of the first times we talked about it when he started at IBC. He's like, we're just not letting Jimmy talk right now.
That's right. I mean, I come from the oil field. Like, service means 24-hour delivery. Like, let's get the truckloads rolling. But
it's interesting. That's an interesting angle, because if you think about innovation and transformation and inflection points, Amazon, we talked about Amazon this morning. It used to be that you had to go to the store to get an item, or if you placed an order, it would show up in 2 weeks and cost you $20 of shipping. And now stuff shows up at my door in 4 hours for free, allegedly, right? I guess my question is, why not ship HI&I in 24 hours?
Well, it is. I mean, to be fair, they were like, wow, that's impressive. But I mean, that's a great point. I mean, I don't want to lose the enthusiasm and the service level that I've learned in the energy space. I want to take that across all these markets, right? Whether they like it or not. I mean, I think that's something that, you talk about culture. We have a service culture. Like, when you're in the oil and gas space, it is a 24 hours, a day, answer the phone, get it done, never stop. I love that culture, and we want to take that into other platforms.
Yeah. How do your customers respond? So, you already started talking about this, but you're coming in, I think the chemical industry, its customers, there's a lot of value to reliability, relationships, legacy relationships. Like we even heard earlier today when we talked about in supply chain about the adaptability and stuff, but a lot of it is still with partners. Mm-hmm. And now you're coming in and challenging maybe what people consider partnerships, long-standing relationships, long-standing product formulations.
Sure.
In the industry. What are you seeing from a customer response perspective?
That's a great question. I mean, it's different, right? You talk about oil and gas. We had direct to the customer relationships, right? And this is a new technology platform. It's a non-ionic surfactant platform that plays well with everybody. We're like the Switzerland of surfactants, right? So we kind of have that going for us. So, kind of our strategy was we had to kind of pivot from our traditional channel to market of direct sales to, we recognize that this is a new technology. We have to find partners that are experts in the space, right? And so we were very selective. There's several of our partners sitting in this room that were just, we went out and found the partners that have the technical expertise, the bench, and the relationships in those new markets. And that's kind of how we're we've kind of evolved our business. We're now working with partners to evolve the technology. And what's funny is, we have way more scientists than we do salespeople, which is not the traditional oil field model. We're investing heavily on the technical side, continuing to develop and unwrap this technology and letting our partners guide that, right? I mean, so there's so many good people out here. I mean, we're competing with chemical cities in China, right? And so if you're sitting there going, man, we can do it ourselves, you've lost your mind. I mean, just take a trip, land in Beijing, say, I want to go to the surfactant city, and they'll take you. And it's bigger than any plant that the US has. And so if we don't develop these strategic relationships and these partnerships, it's going to be a very challenging market for us. And it's not like they're going to be like, hey, let's let up this year, right? I mean, we talked to our STEM friends. Where are they? They're advocating STEM in the US. I can't remember what the statistic is. What is it? 1 US STEM grad to 20 Chinese STEM grads, or is it even worse than that? It's worse than that? Do you know the number?
I don't know, but it's about between 3 to 4 times.
God, I mean, that's terrifying. And we have to recognize that, right? And so you better be partnering up, and you better figure out how to unlock technology that drives value, because it's going to be difficult to win on price.
And you just recently came back from Perth, where you started up a partnership.
That's
down
right.
There, right? So we
Yep.
talked about that just last week, yeah.
Yeah, so our technology has a very nice niche in the mining space for froth flotation and collectors. And rather than go and try to reinvent the wheel, we found a phenomenal partner. Company's called ICD. They work in the super alloy space, and they have a great facility in Perth. And so we're able to go down and put our manufacturing footprint in Perth to support the mining business down there. Again, kind of goes back to partnerships. How do you speed to market? For us to go buy a facility, learn how to do business in Australia would have been a nightmare. And so we were able to leverage their strength.
So does this, I'm coming back to one of the questions in the comments that came in when we did our Slido around fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
So, you said, yeah, we could talk about that. So does partnering alleviate the need for fundraising? Is this continual fundraising? I mean, there's a few startups in the house here.
Yeah.
And, let's be honest, we talked already, cash is king, money is important, getting the investment is critical. How do you navigate financial fundraising needs and bringing that into play?
No, and what's interesting is if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have never called the company Integrity Biochem. I like the integrity part. The biochem part was confusing for the marketplace, because every meeting would start with, so what round of funding are you in? Tell us about your fermenters. Can you make 10 gallons for a sample? I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was like we had to explain that, no, we make millions of gallons a month. We shipped full truckload. You want a rail car? We can do it in, and I'd have to look to the business unit so I wouldn't screw up. But, so it was, it actually hurt us, because people had a misconception, thought we were fermentating and that we were, startup. The whole sustainable bio kind of puts you in a bucket of startup, right? And so that has been challenging, is kind of overcome that stigmatism. I think we've done it well, but it was a challenge at first for sure. And the fundraising piece, you're absolutely right. I mean, partnerships help, because you're able to get into markets that would traditionally be very, very expensive and time consuming, and they're there. And these partners are experts. And so, there's a big technology exchange, and you got to trust, but it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, love it. So, we've talked before about growing pains, Jimmy, you and I. What's been harder than you expected about scaling this business?
The regulatory piece. I know that's the US specifically, which is interesting, right? We're on the DSL in Canada, we're REACH certified in Europe. We just got on the TSCA inventory in the US, and it took 3 years. My pilot friends have been very patient. They're one of our partners in HI&I, and it's still not done perfectly. So there's a big regulatory issue that the US has to address, and it's challenging. And so that has been, in some markets, it's been very challenging. Other markets, it's been great. Believe it or not, personal care, we have 8 inky names. You can take our product, slather up, put as much sunscreen with our juice in it on you all you want, but do not spray it on a hard surface cleaner, put it in a hard surface cleaner. So America's lost their minds. And when we started this 3 years ago, they were like 90 days, slam junk. This is America. You got this. We didn't realize that Trump had gutted the EPA. There's nobody left at the EPA. So it was a very interesting learning curve, and it kicked me in the teeth. I was wrong a lot. Yeah.
But you come back from it.
Yes, we're still in it, but we've bounced back pretty well. Yeah.
So, I think about leadership. We talked about leadership edge. I mean, this aspect of couple of things come to mind. Number one is resilience. So this whole aspect of it taking 3 years instead of 3 months to get a product approved. I love the fact that we don't want to spray it on our countertops, but go ahead and put it on your body. It's always
lipstick,
an interesting thing.
free
right?
and clear. I mean, literally, chapstick, whatever.
How do you maintain the resilience? What's your resilience strategy? Like, how do you stay resilient in the face of all this resistance, right? So you guys clearly have big goals, a lot of energy, people that are trying to make this happen. And there's hurdles and barriers that are there.
Yeah.
How do you make that happen? What's your strategy?
I think our team and the culture is just, we love the challenge of it, right? And being able to pivot is critical. We talked about, how quickly can you pivot and move quickly into these new markets. We just recognized, okay, HI&I is going to be in the penalty box. Let's go all in on mining, and it's just redirecting resources, right? And moving, as quickly as you can through that. And so it's been a challenge, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we're learning a ton, and again, you hire the people that have the expertise, and it starts streamlining those decisions. When it was a bunch of energy people sitting in a room trying to figure it out, we had more challenges than we do today. We have a really good regulatory group. We brought in experts in these other markets, and so. We're letting them guide the business. I mean, we're still setting standards and we have, the goals and objectives are the same, but, you're having to trust new teammates.
Where do you see Integrity Biochem? Where do you see the industry in the next 5 years? We talk about what is 2030, and you're coming in both from a innovation, transformation, sustainability perspective. Yep. But, what's your role in the industry in 5 years?
That's a crystal ball question. I think it's an excellent question. There's going to be a lot of things that determine where the chemical industry heads. I mean, I think elections are going to play a big part of it. I mean, right now we don't talk about. I mean, we're super green. Like we're ridiculously sustainable. I never lead with that in a sales meeting. It's all about price and performance. And I love the panel that came up here. I love the future, and I think it'd be amazing if everybody started caring. But the reality is. Procurement managers, their KPIs are around profitability, right? And so the elections shift the way Americans think about sustainability, right? And right now, nobody cares. I mean, I wish we cared. I really wish we cared. But so we sell on price and performance. Now, Americans are bipolar, right? So the odds are, just looking at history, and I'm not getting political, do not shoot the messenger, I'm just telling you my feeling, whether you worship at the altar of Fox News or MSNBC. The reality is we are going to probably shift, because we do every 4 to 8 years, into a whole new political realm, right? Trump's president now, Rachel Maddow might be president next, right? I mean, we're nuts. I mean, what is going to happen? We don't know. So in the next 5 years, if we go the route of Rachel Maddow, the chemical industry sustainability is going to matter, right? If we go the route of something else, I mean, we, as leaders, we have to adapt, right? There's the problem with the U.S. and the way we're perceived in the world is we're unstable. It's not that we're right or left. It's that we're bipolar. We don't know what we are. Every 4 years, we're a different. So as leaders, I would love to give you some awesome, I'm not businessy like the rest of y'all. I'm feeling so insecure up here because I don't have all the cool buzzwords. But I will tell you, what's going to happen is going to be determined on where the political future, lies. And we just, as leaders, we have to adapt. It doesn't matter. We can complain about it for 24 hours after the election. Which side you're on, it doesn't matter. Then you wake up and you either put the big sustainability flag out in front of your house, or you put the ballistic missile sign up. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. We just want to make money for our shareholders. And at the end of the day, America's based on capitalism, and I love that, but it's going to be different. Sorry, I didn't even answer the question. I
think you did.
I blacked out. Sorry.
So I think one of the challenges and opportunities as you start up is that you can have no playbook and you build up your own playbook and what's the rule book, et cetera. Do you have a business or a leader that you have tried to emulate or that you've looked to say, oh, that's how that goes. We're going to try to do the same thing for your business?
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I mean, I think Todd said it. You've worked in this industry long enough. You've seen a lot of great leaders, right? There's one sitting right there, Doc Landis, who's a mentor of mine and provided epic guidance. But I think you take pieces from everybody you've worked with. I think everybody in the room would agree. I mean, you take kind of pieces, good and bad, from everybody you've worked with. I have a military background, so I'm a little bit harsher than most. Laura is one of our founders. She came on board and was like, hey, Jimmy, we should really do town halls and actually ask people what they think. And I'm like, hey, Laura, that's a great idea. I mean, it's, you have to take input from everybody. I mean, if it was me, I mean, everybody shut up, go fill the trucks and let's roll, but I can't, I'm trying to evolve as a leader, stop, ask the right questions, be sensitive, all that stuff I'm not good at, but you surround yourself with people that are good at that and you learn from them, right? And so I think it's just an evolution, and I can't point to one person, but I think it's not, and it's not just leaders, right? I think it's colleagues. I mean, there's plant workers at our plant that I learned stuff from. I'm like, man, you really did that well. Like the way you just led that small batch group, like that's cool. So it's just you kind of pick it up as you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on The Chemical Show. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and most importantly, share it with your friends and colleagues. For more insights, visit thechemicalshow.com and connect with us on LinkedIn. You can find me at Victoria King Meyer on LinkedIn, and you can also find us at The Chemical Show Podcast. Join us next time for more conversations and strategies shaping the future of the industry. We'll see you soon.